That's right, my wonderful people, today we find ourselves back for another 100 days in the world of everything mega modded. There will be more adventures, we will venture to faraway lands, and of course there will be more meat plants. But most importantly, we will be making it rain lucky rings. And this is 400 days, so that means there are 300 days to catch up on if you haven't already. And if you are enjoying the Mega Modded series, then all I can ask is that you like the video and subscribe to the channel, because these videos do take me ages to put together. Or don't. But it'd be nice if you did. So without further ado, kick your feet up, grab your nearest pan, and let's get into the video. Starting right back from where we left off at the end of the last video, we're here in fall of year 3 on day 301. And boy golly, it's good to be back. The day started with a leisurely cable ride up to Ridgeside so that I could hand my mother-in-law a birthday gift. And back down in the valley, it was also Robin's birthday, so I gave her some yummy goat's cheese. Don't worry though, I'm having to give out less and less birthday gifts now since it's been a few years of gift giving. Thank God. So with them out of the way, I made my way to the recently acquired Hike Trail greenhouse, which, if you remember correctly, I've nicknamed the Meat House. Yeah, it's a little odd, but I got to harvest turkey, duck, and bird meat, plant some dragon meat down, and I picked some frog meat. I'm trying to normalize myself saying all of these things, but I just haven't quite brought myself around to it just quite yet. Anyway, as the afternoon rolled around, I was on my way to take some jade stone to the desert trader, but it seemed Luna didn't want me to go quite so soon. I did eventually make it, and I traded a bunch of jade stone in return for some staircases that I'm hoping will come in handy later on. And while I was there, I traded the desert totem crafting recipe for 10 iridium bars, and on top of that, I caught myself the scorpion carp to add to my fishing collection. Back home, after a great first day back on Mega Modded Farm, I decided to get some sleep. Which means it's straight on to day 302. I used my beach obelisk this morning to empty out my crab pots and refilled them with bait. I only had a couple of crab pot fish to catch for the fishing collection, but I'll admit I was getting quite unlucky. That aside, I made a trip over to Ginger Island to pick up some bananas and scythe down some unmilled rice that I had planted at the end of the last video. I then passed by Key's Walnut Room and was outraged to see that he was offering the Key's Cuisine quest for, I'm pretty sure, the 4th week in a row. Granted, after some thought, it was a pretty easy quest to do, so I took it. But I was starting to think that Key was being spiteful. Over in Leo's hut, I asked his bird where I could get my hands on some more golden walnuts, and was pleased to say it gave me a pretty sound clue. So I went back again, only to find it's limited to 1 clue a day, I guess. I'm very clearly not happy about that. So I took fate into my own hands and ventured into the volcano dungeon, where I found a mummified bat amongst some rocks. Professor Snail was stoked at my discovery and I got another walnut. By the time I got back home, it was getting dark, so I thought it would be best to finish up for the day. The rain was coming down on day 303, but I didn't let that halt my productivity for the day. To be honest, I spent it mooching around Ridgeside. I paid Maddie an early morning visit to give her some coral for her birthday. I caught one of Ridgeside Village's legendary fish, the sockeye salmon from the village river. Added the blade-tail sturgeon to my fishing collection by catching it outside of Geo's hut, and picked up a special quest from Maddie to get a stack of bug steaks for Mr. Agua. Whether they're for science or for consumption, I'm not gonna judge. Back on the farm that evening, I was able to scrounge together 10 out of the 20 bug steaks Maddie needed and stared into the void for a while. And suddenly it was day 304. I was determined to get this special quest done today, and after stopping by Evelyn's in town to hand George a birthday gift, I sprayed on some Chanel No. 5 Monster Musk and hit the mines for bug meat. With the Galaxy Sword in hand, it was nothing short of a massacre. And yeah, that's the nicest way I could put it. But I was racking up bug meat left, right and center. By the late afternoon, I warped home with my pockets full. Blair surprised me soon after by inviting me out on a fishing date to the fishing pond beside Marnie's, and I thought that'd be a great idea. Not so great was the sudden lack of a bed. No, seriously, why is it not there but sleeping is still an option? I didn't have time to worry about it too much though, because I had to take the steaks up to the water treatment plant that night, and I dumped all 20 steaks in a bin for Maddie. She walked right past me, but she didn't say a damn thing. That's okay though, because despite not having a bed, Blair still wanted to have a baby, and I'm not gonna ask any questions or elaborate any further. Instead, we're going to move on to day 305. I tried to fix the bed situation. I could pick it up, but it still didn't change the fact that it was invisible. So I took a break from that to spend time with my lovely wife. We were having a lovely time on our fishing date when we started to reel something big in, but it was just kiwi.
Hi, how are you?
I wasn't even going to try to explain to Blair that kiwi was actually a Junimo. Instead, I popped by Robin's to buy us a new bed. I picked out the deluxe double bed, placed it down in the farmhouse, and prayed that this one would just stay normal. I found myself at Gus's that afternoon to purchase even more cooking recipes and to buy a bunch of coffee, which I used to make triple shot espressos back on the farm to then ship away for Key's Cuisine quest. It's a very easy way to do this quest if you're thriving financially. I thought for a bit what I could do next, until I remembered Lenny asking me to provide materials to renovate Ridgeside's community greenhouse, and after gathering everything up from my chests I made my way there. I found Ian at Lenny's hoping for a letter back from his family, although no such letter had arrived, and after consoling him I found out that he worked so hard to send them money since they're not so well off. But after our chat he seemed to cheer up and I was able to dump all of the materials for the greenhouse into Lenny's chest. As for the rest of the day, well, you could say not a lot happened. And truthfully, yeah, not a lot happened. Day 306 happened though. It started with a trip up the mountain to Ridgeside, where I found Lorenzo reliving some childhood memories and handing Corrine a birthday gift. However, I figured today should be all about making Belinda and Reii's portal to the spirit realm dream come true. So I had an extensive look, even making some notes through the blessed artifact pages over in Geo's hut. Then I went in search of the 9 relics. Now the first relic I found was the Sapphire Pearl. I found it by fishing it out of Tort's Pond. The second was the moose statue beside the bench that overlooks the valley. The third I found on the 3rd floor of the log cabin by smacking the ballerina painting, where I got the ancient music box. The fourth was the Everfrost Stone, which I found by smacking a wall with an axe at Nightingale Orchard. The fifth relic was dug up by the abandoned shack, now occupied by Andrea. Quick side note, I came across a sad looking Aria who I had to help console because she failed a school paper and was too scared to tell Maeve. And honestly, I would be too. The sixth relic I got by watering the statue in the Hike Trail greenhouse. Number 7, I found the village hero sculpture by fishing in the well by the Amathene's mansion. Another quick side note, I found out Sunny actually died the night he was saved by the mountain spirit. She only brought him back to life so that he'd bring her offerings, and the consequences for her actions is that Sunny will never be able to see her. Yeah, that whole thing sounds like something I just shouldn't get involved in. Anyway, the last relic I got today was the Fox Mask, which I got for standing still for a very long time. Something I seem to be very good at. To finish off a huge day of relic gathering, I gathered up as much ancient fruit wine as I possibly could before passing out. Day 307, I was right back to gathering the rest of my wine from last night, and it's now that I would like to show off a new mod I installed for the series. The HarvestWithScythe mod. Thank you to some suggestions in the comments from my last video. They proposed I install this mod to help me with my ample amount of ancient fruit. And I must say, I cannot believe I've gone this long without it. Once all of the ancient fruit were back fermenting in their kegs for the week, I found Paula taking some time to herself at Pika's shop, where I handed her a birthday gift. Afterwards, I realized I was short one relic to open the spirit portal. And referring back to my notes, I found the opal halo hiding behind the cable car station. But opening that old can of worms would have to wait, as it was the Spirits Eve festival tonight. I made my way through this year's maze, grabbed the golden pumpkin from the chest, found my way all the way back, and headed home. It's day 308, we have all 9 relics now, so let's go and open ourselves a portal. Although I had to quickly pop by Susan's place to hand her a golden pumpkin for her birthday. Okay, now we can do the cool thing. Dusty and I rode up to the Ridge Falls and started to place the relics on their corresponding pedestals. As the last relic was placed, Reii, Belinda and the others all appeared to witness the opening of the portal. Once it was open, I was given a rundown on how to navigate the spirit realm. To keep it simple, green crystals were there to teleport me around the islands. I was to put out 5 flames that controlled the corruption, and the pink crystals were to be used if I ever needed a quick exit. And with Reii and Belinda's words ringing in my ears, I headed through into the portal. And I think it's time for a spirit cleansing montage. With the final flame extinguished, Gabriella was expelled from the spirit realm and it was put back to normal. After receiving thanks from Ray and Belinda, they explained a new farm may have just opened up at the summit of the mountain. Geo also made his feelings clear soon after everyone had left, and I'm a little hurt actually. On a lighter note, the Ridgeside Community Greenhouse was reopened that night, so that's nice. That aside, today's adventure was a fun way to end the fall season. It's back to feeling the brisk feeling of winter on day 309. Now I've heard of yellow snow, but green snow? You may want to get that checked out with a doctor. To start the day, I rode Dusty through town so I could pay our old pal Krobus a visit for a birthday surprise. I was about to leave when I doubled back and rubbed my eyes to see he was selling radioactive seeds. And I can't say no to that, now can I? So of course I had to plant down some winter seeds and the radioactive seeds in my crop fields. I then almost had to do a spit take when I saw Key was offering the Key's Cuisine quest again! I may have to get this man some different clothes so that he can grasp the understanding of variety. In better news, I dug up my first snake spine. Well, second, but I don't want to talk about it. I'm sure it won't take me ages to find the next one, right? Right? After spending 300,000 gold at Gus's for coffee to turn them into triple shot espressos, to only make a third of the gold back to ship it off for Key's quest, because 25 key gems is totally worth it, I got an early night's sleep. I was giving Jerick a birthday gift the morning of day 310 when I got distracted by a chicken. Don't tell me you wouldn't either, because that is simply not true. I was around Ridgeside because I wanted to explore the so-called Summit Farm. It only took a short ride through the Ridge Mountain with Dusty to get to the farm, and I made a start clearing a path through all the debris. It was an incredible view once I made it to the other side. I even noticed some minecarts around the outskirts of the farm. The house wasn't looking too bad either, considering the lack of a human presence, but I'm kinda stuck on what to do with this space, so I'm offering it up to you to decide. Leave a comment on what you think I should do with the space. The most popular suggestion I'll do in the final episode. As for the rest of the day, I dug up another golden walnut over on Ginger Island, and wondered if I could do anything about this green snow. Day 311 can be summed up pretty easily. It was a day of cooking, and I won't drone on about it because trust me when I say this, there will be a lot more of these days over the next 100 days. Day 312 was the exact same as yesterday, to be honest, slowly but surely ticking off every cooking recipe. I took a break from the heat of the kitchen on day 313. I was able to pick some produce from my orchard this morning before heading out to deliver some gifts to a group of villagers close to Full Hearts. I thought if I do this now, then that's a few more birthdays I don't have to worry about down the track. So that's exactly what I did. By the mid-afternoon, I'd given out the last gift. So I potted around Ginger Island for a bit, unlucky not to get another artifact spot. Then finished the day collecting up my ancient fruit wine. At least it was a bit earlier this week, so I didn't pass out. Rolling right along to day 314, it was back to the ancient fruit harvest. Let me tell you something though, this HarvestWithScythe mod is an absolute game changer. I mean, just look at me go. And after dumping all of the fruit back into kegs, I ventured back out into the valley to hand out gifts to those close to max hearts. In between handing them out, I helped Bert out with a parenting problem that he had with Trini, and I helped him pick out a surprise date for him and Olga to go on. Aww. I gave my final gift out to Evelyn that evening, and by the time I got home it was getting late, so I just called it in for the night. I found myself mooching the morning of day 315. I did collect some oak resin and rode Dusty around the island farm hoping to see an artifact spot. But I did find something to do later on. My dragon meat had finished growing in the meat house, so I picked it and replaced it with horse meat. Nobody told Dusty that. I then hauled a pile of just under 200 Omni Geodes to Clint's, in hopes that I could knock off the minerals collection tab. I donated what I could to Gunther when I ran out of space, circled back home to free up some inventory space for round 2, then popped into Clint's again to repeat the process. Again I donated, freed up space, and was back to Clint's for round 3. But it was all worth the effort when Clint opened the final mineral I needed, and there's nothing more satisfying than a completed collections tab. I celebrated in typical Poxiel fashion by staring out over the farm atop Dusty, doing absolutely nothing for the rest of the night. I had some winter forageables to pick the morning of day 316. You already know how this goes by now, so here's me planting down another batch. A new week means new special quests, and would you bloody believe it, Keys Cuisine is back for its 6th consecutive week in a row. I still took it. But that would have to wait, as today was the Festival of Ice. And since I'm boycotting all future egg hunts, I've got to find victory by other means. And you know what? I think this'll do. You may be wondering if I spent my time wisely the morning of day 317. Well, the short answer is, I didn't. I waited for Gus's shop to open for a solid 4 hours. Also, I can mass produce more triple shot espressos to complete another week of Keys Cuisine. I then took off to the Ridge Mountain to try my luck catching some new fish. I was getting berated by monsters, and I won't lie, it almost ended in absolute disaster. I guess that's what I get for trying to catch fish that only swim in waters surrounded by monsters. But it all paid off when I caught the Crimson Spiked Clam, and another Ridgeside legendary fish, the Deep Ridge Angler. After which I quickly warped my way home to safety, and showed off my newest catch. Come to think of it, Dusty will be fine up there, right? I called him to me just before bed just to make sure, and honestly, he's never looked better. I began day 318 with an early morning ride to Robin's, so that I could give Sebastian a void egg for his birthday, before swinging by the mines to catch myself a lava eel. You'd think I would have caught one by now with all the trash fishing I've done, but apparently not. I then made an effort to restock my crab pots. I have been doing this for weeks now, and I still haven't caught a mussel or a lobster. I managed to find some ginseng seeds I hadn't planted yet from the dwarf later that evening, and waited around the mountain lake until it got late so that I could catch a midnight carp to add to my fishing collection. Again, you'd think I would have caught one by now. As I went to bed that night, the miracle of childbirth happened overnight, and we were blessed with a baby girl. Aww. A child so precious shall be called Bingus. Blair didn't veto the name, so I guess it's a keeper. Day 319 started off down at the beach. I had convinced myself that you could catch an octopus in the wintertime. I later found out that you couldn't. So yeah, everyone laughed at the dum-dum. I had a much better afternoon though. I gave Kia here a clam for his birthday, planted my ginseng seeds down on the island farm, and finished the day picking produce from my orchard. As for day 320, well, it started off with a ride into town to hand Gunther a birthday gift. I gave him a rabbit's foot because he's another fickle man to find gifts for. Then I thought I'd try my luck with some artifact troves I traded with the desert trader. But I watched Clint walk off as I remembered that he doesn't work on a Friday. He'd rather stare at a furnace in the community center than help me in my hour of need. Come back, Clint. Not to worry though, instead I got back to the cooking grind for the rest of the day. I guess you could say the metaphorical chef's hat came back out. And after a day's worth of cooking and my chests now overflowing, I decided to relocate them all down to the cellar. Purely so I can collect everything I've cooked, just so you can all see how much suffering I went through to cook 7 pages worth of recipes. And as the day came to an end, I collected up another batch of ancient fruit wine and shipped it off. Well, I bet you can guess how day 321 started. And after I'd wrapped up the weekly ancient fruit harvest, I paid a quick visit to Clint's to whack open a few artifact troves. Unfortunately, I came up short with no new artifacts, so I went out in search of one of them myself. I did find Krobus having some fun with a Junimo though, so that's kinda cute. The Arrowhead artifact has a small chance to be dug up from an artifact spot, and it's one of the last 3 artifacts that I need. Yet again, I was met with disappointment as I couldn't find it. The prehistoric scapula is another artifact still left to find, and it can be found from breaking bone nodes at the dig site on Ginger Island. Bone nodes. However, it seems disappointment followed me all the way across the GMC and I didn't get it. So I quickly returned home to forget about today. And move on to day 322. I noticed a piece of marble for sale at the market day stalls in town that morning, so I waited patiently to buy it for a crafting recipe later on. I'm not putting it up to chance with Mr. Unreliable working at the blacksmith. It was Harvey's birthday today too, so I gave him a rabbit's foot. Later that morning I found myself back at the dig site, this time to fish up a piece of spine. which I passed on to Professor Snail for further research. I then ventured around the valley again in hopes of digging up an arrowhead artifact. I'll give you one guess if I got it or not. Your clue is it starts with N and rhymes with low. It was to Key's walnut room soon after, so I could spend, maybe not so well earned, key gems on 5 mushroom seeds, which I planted down to make a start on decorating the funky gap between my crop fields and the path. I began day 323 at the island farm, whacking weeds and checking in with the Keymeister for special quests. He isn't offering Key's cuisine this week, and maybe it's because I've seen it so much, but I think I kinda miss it. Never thought I'd say that. I did the same up at Ridgeside and picked up Blair's Upper Creek quest again. I then did something you would call controversial. I chopped down the oak tree farm. I know, it's hard to see it go. I think it's one of the first things I ever made on the farm way back when we were just starting out this series. But it had to go because in its place the golden clock would soon take over. That night I tried to catch an octopus in the submarine at the night market, but realized it probably wasn't gonna happen. So instead I'll show you me working on the golden clock space again. See, nothing dumb going on here. It was Louie's birthday on day 324, and I was on my way to surprise him with a Highland Butterwort when I got to overhearing a squabble between Zane and Maeve. I would have paid attention, but Maeve started clipping into a chair and I really lost all track of the conversation. Don't worry though, Louie got his birthday present. After those shenanigans, I got back to cooking away in the kitchen, and that's what took up the rest of my day. Serenity, tranquility, calm. No, I'm not describing my new spa business venture. That's how I described day 325. It consisted of picking produce from the orchard and fishing at the Ridgeside River for harvester trouts next to Carmen, until she walked away. By 4 in the afternoon, when the run of harvester trout stopped, I had 3 out of the 10 I needed and spent the evening bumming around the farm, smelting iridium, chucking the lava eel into a pond to replace the sturgeons, and having some sleepy times. Day 326 was a pretty similar story. I gave Freddy a birthday gift, emptied and refilled my crab pots, and returned to Ridgeside to fish most of the day away, catching more harvested trouts. And by the time 4 o'clock had rolled around again, I walked away with 3 more. Yeah, it's not as many as I'd like, but hey, it's for my lovely wife, so no complaints here. And frankly, that's about it for today. So I guess it's on to day 327. It's an odd thing to come across half-grown mushroom trees. I'm not even sure if they're meant to be like this. I've just never seen mushroom trees in the winter apparently. But please let me know if this is normal or not. Either way, I couldn't ignore Marlon's birthday, so I handed him a rabbit's foot. Picked up some more hay for my animal friends since they'd chewed their way through a whole silo worth, and returned to the Ridgeside River for the 3rd consecutive day. Luckily though, it was the last day. I caught the final trout, put all 10 into a bin beside Carmen's place, and ticked off another special quest. That evening, another round of ancient fruit wine was awaiting collection, so I went around my sheds collecting it all up so that I could ship it away before bed. I won't skip over the ancient fruit harvest this morning, because it'll be one of the last. With my pockets overflowing with gold from weeks of meticulous ancient fruit winemaking, I could afford the priciest decoration in all of Stardew Valley, the golden clock. And after purchasing it, I felt like I could float to heaven now that I had emptied my life savings onto this thing. But hey, it looks great, and that's another thing I can tick off on my way towards perfection. I was conducting my usual mooching around the farm nighttime routine that evening when I entered my slime hutch and was surprised to see that all of my slimes had lost their colours. Now that I think about it, I think I did see a witch fly over a few nights ago, but I couldn't be bothered to change it. I did enjoy the squelchy sounds though. It's day 329 and it started with a visit to Ridgeside so that I could join Pika in bed and hand him a birthday gift. Consensually, I swear. Afterwards, I popped by Marnie's again, this time to buy some more rabbits, subtly named Hip, Hop, Hup, and Hap. I bought Hip, Hop, Hup, and Hap in hopes of obtaining more rabbit feet, as they're a universally loved gift that can be iridium quality, which is great when you have people who only love cooking dishes. I'm looking at you, Pierre. And about 50 NPCs to get to max hearts. Soon after, I was at the dig site to break some more bone nodes. Bone nodes. When I accidentally got my first golden coconut. But that would have to wait, as today was the first of many episodes in this video, the continuation of season 3, and your favourite segment of all time, Panning with Poxio! With special guest Dusty. Any words you'd like to say to the thousands of people watching, Dusty? Spoken like a true panning guru. Well, let's be honest now, you all know how this works. Unfortunately, I didn't manage to pan up a ring today, but the total for the season still stands at 3, which, fun fact, is tied for the record right now from season 2. Moving right along to day 330, it began with a trip to the Walnut Room where I picked up Key's Hungry Challenge. Finally, I was going to put those many staircases I traded to good use. Hold your horses though, because first of all I had to check Ridgeside for special quests. And I picked up Mr. Agwa's Geology Research quest that tasked me to find and hand over 30 magma geodes. But I was too excited to use my staircases, so I headed to the Skull Caverns. Using my staircases, I made my way down the caverns, dodging all harm thanks to the Desert Trader, only taking a slight deviation to open a chest and stumbling upon my 4th autopetter for the series. I hit level 100 in no time and I got the heck out of there. The rest of my day was, to say, less action-packed. I gave my lava eel some fire quartz, picked produce from the orchard, and decorated a path around the mushroom trees, all before hitting the hay. It was Leah's birthday on day 331, and after handing her a cheeky wee truffle, I came across Louie and Sunny by the bus stop. Louie was inviting me to come and play with him and his friends, and while it was clear that he was still learning how to be nicer, the thought was there. And I had a great time joining in on the fun. Right afterwards, I paid Clint a visit to crack that golden coconut I'd found the other day. It gave me another walnut, but even better, I could now purchase them at the island trader. So wasting no time, I went to the desert to pick up some final coconuts and warped my way over to the island. At the trader, I got my hands on 4 golden coconuts, which I took all the way back to Clint's. I was looking for a fossilized skull, and thank goodness I got one. This was so I could hand it over to Professor Snail to complete another set. And for my efforts, I was rewarded with more golden walnuts and a banana sapling. I then thought a good use of my time could be spent in the mines, making a start on Mr. Agwa's quest to get 30 magma geodes. And using some leftover bombs I had found in my chests, I went along carpet bombing each level to maximize my chance of finding geodes. This continued to day 332, as unfortunately I didn't get quite enough the night before. Just as afternoon approached, I picked up the last geode I needed, and made my way to the water treatment plant. Inside though, I interrupted a serious conversation happening between Magnus and Mr. Agua. It seems there's some bad juju underneath Ridgeside. My words, not theirs. And they're after my help, since apparently I just made my way through Mr. Agwa's magical field when I saw him doing magic. Supposedly normal people can't do that. I guess I'm just not like the other girls. So I agreed to keep a lookout while they continued their investigation. Back to what I was doing though, I dumped the 30 geodes into a bin to finish the geology research quest, before finding Freddy lost in thought outside his house. He felt comfortable telling me a story about his past. A very long story short, he and Lola were once assassins, and served to protect the everyday citizen. One day, unfortunately, they lost their child, who they had told to stay in a toy shop as they went to help a nearby attack. But it all went pear-shaped, and unfortunately he didn't make it, so they bought the toy in remembrance. Freddy offered it up to my future kids, so I hope one day I can bring Bingus up here to play with it one day soon. While I was around, I popped in quickly to the meat house to pick the horse meat I'd planted a while ago. There's a joke here somewhere, but I just can't seem to find it. There isn't much to say about day 333. I harvested radioactive ore, picked produce from the orchard, and headed into town for the Feast of the Winter Star Festival. My person this year was Ezekiel, so I gave him a cauliflower. All I got this year was a purple mushroom. I'm putting that pretty low on the list, Isabel. Pretty damn low. Just don't tell her what I did with it when I got home. You saw nothing. Rolling right along to day 334, I got to collect up a bunch of radioactive bars before visiting Ridgeside again. Corrine made her dad apologize for being rude to me when I found his ring that one time, and he showed me what was in that ring. It was a picture of him, Corrine, and his late wife. And it was nice to see a vulnerable side to Ezekiel. I was really here at Ridgeside to give Shanice a birthday gift, but I wasn't around for long because it was time for another episode of your favorite segment of all time, Panning with Poxio! With special guest Dusty. Not only did I find a prehistoric scapula while clearing out the dig site for today's episode, but I also managed to pan up our 4th lucky ring of the season, bringing our total to 4 and breaking the previous record. I had to finish early tonight, however, as I needed time to collect my ancient fruit wine before bed, of course. Apparently, splurging 10 million gold on the golden clock wasn't going to stop me from chasing that bag. I was back to another ancient fruit harvest on day 335, mainly because I wanted to have enough money to cover my bases for any future projects or endeavours. So after the kegs were full once again of fermenting ancient fruit, I had a couple of birthday gifts to hand out, one to Irene and one to Sophia. Then it was off to the museum to hand over the scapula I had found yesterday, before trying my luck on Ginger Island for that second snake spine, and calling it a night. It was the final day of winter on day 336, and it started off with a few odd jobs around the farm. With the bunch of grass starter I'd bought from Pierre's, I topped up the animal pen with grass for spring just around the corner. It turned to the afternoon pretty suddenly, and I was on my way to Shiro's when I caught the end of what I gathered was a very close call. It was pretty obvious why Yuma is always out and about doing things for his brother, but he seemed pretty upset. Outside, Shiro expressed his gratitude towards Yuma, saying that he feels bad for taking his childhood because of his injury. But they made up, and I hope Yuma gets to play with the other kids more now. Coincidentally, I was actually here for Shiro's birthday, so I made sure to give him his gift. Back on the farm, I passed the time making room in my hub area for more chests. I don't know what I'll need him for, but I'm sure I'll need him. Dusty and I took a moment to overlook the valley, but before I knew it, I was attending my 3rd Ember of Resolutions festival. As per usual, I put my log down, watched the flames of the bonfire grow, and wished for the greatest gift of all time, more lucky rings. The green snow has melted away, the doctor suggested no more broccoli. And here we are on day 337, the first day of spring and the start of our 4th year in the valley. Sophia's friend Scarlett paid a visit to the farm to let me know that I could now visit her in Grampleton via the kiosk at the railroad. Yeah, just what I need, another villager to get to max hearts. The day started on a slight rough note as I forgot that the winter forageables don't turn into dead plants, they just straight up disappear. So I had to spend a good chunk of my morning fixing all of that so I could plant down an absurd amount of strawberry plants. But it was nice to have it back to the aesthetically pleasing standard I strive to uphold. To round out the day, Corrine had a weird interaction with Geo. Maybe she's going to become a part of the cult? Who knows? I handed my favourite tortoise a birthday gift worthy of the gods and fixed up the golden clock paths with more stone walkways. Carrying on to day 338, I dabbled in a bit of fishing today. I caught myself a grass carp from the secret woods, a king salmon from the west woods, and while I was there I thought I'd stick around to catch a dorado. Over on the pier, my crab pots had also finally caught a lobster. And I looked over the fish I had left to catch. I have to say, we're getting pretty close. Although I clearly was not satisfied with the inadequate amount of crab pots I had, so I added a few more around the pier just to be sure. And I accidentally gave one to Carmen. Oopsie. My fishing excursion had eaten away the day, so I quickly looked at keys and Ridgeside special quests for the week, but none took my fancy, so I headed home for the night. I said good morning to Hip Hop, Hop and Hap to start the day on day 339. I need them at full hearts to be making iridium quality rabbit's feet, so this is going to be a daily thing I do. I then spent the morning picking some new produce from the orchard, and went out in search of some legendary fish. And would you believe it, I caught the legend on the first attempt. That usually takes me a few tries, so it's safe to say I was stoked. I had to wait a while to catch the final Ridgeside legendary fish, so to pass the time I emptied another round of crab pots, searched the island for artifact spots, and admired my mushroom trees in the rain with Dusty. But later that night it ticked past 8 o'clock, and I attempted to catch the final legendary fish. It proved pretty difficult, and I got a lullaby carp, a new fish I wasn't even trying for, which hey, I'm not mad about. But I managed to finally hook the waterfall snakehead, which meant I had caught all the legendary fish. I went to bed that night most certainly dreaming about how, wait for it, awesome I am. I was up and at him the morning of day 340. I paid Kent's place an early morning visit so I could hand him a birthday gift, and warped my way to Ridgeside. Tort and I found Geo and Kiwi monster hunting, and to Geo's horror, I decided to let a trapped monster go. But Kiwi seemed to appreciate it. I was here in fact to fish for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' distant cousin, and while I tried really hard to ignore Daya practicing her dagger skills nearby, I added the Cape Tree Frog to my fishing collection. Back down in the valley, I got into a conversation with Shiro about his injury, explaining to me he got it in a freak paratrooping accident after he enlisted as a soldier. He told me Yuma saw the whole thing, and that's why he feels like he has to look after him so much. But Shiro seemed better being able to chat about it. That afternoon, I was back on Ginger Island in search of some more golden walnuts. Leo's bird said I'd find one in the shelly stones on the beach, but I turned up nothing and was evidently not very happy about that. So upset in fact that I parked myself by the golden clock for a while. Maybe I was just getting a snack. I guess we'll never know. The day doesn't end there though. I tried my luck fishing around the mountain ridge. I had another fish to catch, but I got a little too cocky and I really don't want to talk about it. Instead, let's move on to day 341. A mod I added to this series was the tractor mod. Essentially, it assists with crop growing, allowing you to mass hoe or water dirt. Let's be real though, I probably won't use it much, but hey, I bought it anyway. Of course I had to decorate around it too. It'd be rude not to. Adding the tractor to the farm has taken up most of the day, so I thought I'd kick back and relax at the casino. I bought the statue of Endless Fortune from the shady guy in the corner, and spun the wheel at the pokies until I had enough tokens to purchase a statue of treasure from the shop, both of which I placed down beside the golden clock. By the time night came, I was back at the Ridge Mountain, risking my life to catch one of the last fish I needed to catch. This time, however, it went much better, and I hooked myself a Cardiac septal jellyfish. But that was enough danger for one day, so I headed home for the night. Day 342, I woke up and paid the desert trader an early morning visit to get some more artifact troves. I hauled them over to Clint's hoping to find the last two, and sure, I may have got the arrowhead, but I still had one left, and that was fine. I'm not mad at all. After picking some more produce from the orchard, I decided to take matters into my own hands. The last artifact I needed was a dwarf gadget. Actually, I needed two, but that's a whole nother story. So I took my bombs to the mines and farmed away for magma geodes, as I had a pretty good chance to open a geode and find one. And that's how I spent the rest of the day. Now, would you believe me if I said I did the exact same thing on day 343? Of course you would. And you'd be correct. It was a day filled with bright flashes, big booms, but most importantly, more magma geodes. I was over the mines by day 344. My morning was spent giving Lance a birthday gift, scouting Ginger Island for a sign of any artifact spots, and opening 2 days worth of geodes for the final artifact, which, for the record, I did not get. Being a fresh new week, Key had some more quests available for me, and I was excited to see danger in the deep. So I quickly ran home, picked a pile of staircases, and headed to the mines. I would usually just staircase all the way down, but I vaguely remembered the island trader sells galaxy souls if you slay a certain number of dangerous monsters. So as I went down, I took some time to try and reach that number. The iridium needle dagger that I found was putting in some good work too. The adventure down the mines extended onto day 345. I kinda ran out of time yesterday. I should also add I gave Anton a birthday gift too. I spent a good chunk of time meandering my way to the bottom, reaching level 120 by the afternoon. And to round out the day I gave Lance another gift, picked some produce from the orchard, and took a lap around the farm on my snazzy new tractor. Just before bed, however, I collected up the wine from my keg sheds to ship away for a bit of a cash injection. I had a birthday gift to hand out on day 346, Vincent's to be exact. And after he got his bunch of grapes, I paid a quick visit to the walnut room to spend my well-earned key gems. I bought Pierre's missing stock list and as many crafting recipes as I could. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough to buy all of them. By handing Pierre's missing stock list back to him, I unlocked every single seed from across every season. And there is a lot of seeds. Really, I just wanted to get all of the meat seeds I hadn't harvested yet, but oh my god. Over at the meat house, I planted down some mutton, ostrich, pork, and rabbit meat seeds. Afterwards, I decided to just cook the rest of the day away. Oh, and I caught a few eels for future recipes too. The sun was back out again on day 347, and to begin this beautiful day, I popped into the log cabin hotel to give Isabel a loved birthday present. Maybe that's something she can aspire to next time she has to give someone a gift. Ooh. Over in the town square, I picked up Richard's special quest to assist the hotel with a backup power source. And all the way across the GMC on the island farm, I hoped for a miracle. Truly devastating scenes. I did get the Shelly Stone Walnut though, so I guess that's a good compensation. I returned to Leo's bird who gave me the location of another walnut, so I took off, slayed the tiger slimes to receive one of the last walnuts. I then realized the last walnuts I needed were from donating the final snake spine. Dusty and I were back to fluffing around the farm that night, and not a lot happened, except maybe for some ore smelting. So it's on to day 348. I made myself some solar panels this morning to put in the desert sun, in hopes they'd provide some extra batteries for Richard's backup power quest. Let's hope they help. I then paid a visit to Ridgeside to hand everyone's favourite army man, sorry Kenton Shiro, Ezekiel a birthday present. Right after that it was back to the desert and to the casino. And I must do some explaining here, because I have one artifact left to get, and I need it twice. But you see, the Statue of Treasures has been giving me artifact troves every single day. My logic was to play the slots, rack up enough tokens to buy like 5 of them. You can only buy 1 a day by the way. And hoard artifact troves. I may be biased, but I thought it was a pretty smart plan. I placed the first of many statues down in the living room so that I could collect it on the way out every morning. You also might be concerned about Bingus being close to an open flame, but I can assure you, it's fine. I can't say too much happened for the rest of the day. I picked some produce from my orchard again and popped into the spirit realm just because I'm nosy. There wasn't too much to say about day 349, that's because it was the Egg Festival day. I popped another statue of treasure down before heading into town, but I kept my promise. I bought some strawberry seeds and scoffed at the thought of another egg hunt. And genuinely, I just left. I take my boycotting very seriously, I'll have you know. Day 350 was upon us, and what better way to start off such a day than to be waiting outside the casino to get another statue and handing out birthday gifts to the villagers of the valley. Most of the day was taken up by crafting actually. My hub area was a distinct indication of mass hoarding, which worked in my favour as I had most of everything I needed. So as the day went on, I kept ticking off more and more craftables from the list. However, the lack of hardwood and other things made it hard to continue as it got dark, so I called it a night. The rain was back on day 251, but that didn't stop me from handing Olivia a birthday gift and getting the final statue of treasure from the casino. After which I had a very wholesome family moment with Blair, Luna and Bingus. Aww, isn't that just cute? By the afternoon, my mind was back to crafting, and I purchased a stack of iron ore from Clint's so that I could replace the iron bars I'd spent crafting to craft more things. I circled by Pierre's to get some flower seeds, purely so that I could craft the tub of flowers later, and collected hardwood from the Secret Woods and Ginger Island, since I was going through a bit of a shortage. Then I smelted iron and quartz into the late hours of the night. The rain was still pelting down on day 352. I'll admit that was on me though, because the batteries I was getting from the lightning were putting my solar panels to shame, and I needed quite a few for Richard's quest. Shortly afterwards, I was back to Ginger Island to scout out some more artifact spots. Unfortunately, none were found, but I did pick up Danger in the Deep again from Keys, so... Oh hey, fancy seeing you here. Welcome to day 353. We're here on Ginger Island for another episode of Panning with Poxio with special guest Dusty. Now, in no words can I describe what happened today. Instead, I'm just gonna show you. That's right people, we got 8 lucky rings today. Not 1, not 2, not 3, but 8 this day. Day 353 from the Mega Modded series will go down in history as the single most successful day in channel history. And quite frankly, I don't want this day to end. After a day like that, you could imagine I was riding a high on day 354. First things first, I had to sort my inventory out and put my lucky rings in a safe space, since I now had so many. I then found Naomi at the log cabin hotel to give her a gift for her birthday, before returning to the island in search of more artifact spots. As you can imagine, this was a very heartbreaking moment. So close, yet so far. In better news though, I hauled my stack of artifact troves I'd been collecting to Clint's for him to smack open, and I got the final artifact. I dropped it off to Gunther, and with the museum now complete, I got my hands on the second to last star drop. Being the nosy little rat that I am, I took a look at the total percentage towards perfection, and all I can say is, nice. Which must mean it's day 355. The morning started off with a few chores around the farm, and afterwards I popped by the meat house to harvest the meat that had grown, which I replaced with reptile meat, venison, wild boar meat, and fowl meat. It's fowl meat, not foul meat. It tastes fine, I'm sure. With the morning now gone, I popped past Pierre's that afternoon to buy some celery seeds, only to realise that I had already grown some. Some would say my observational skills are quite bad, and to that I'd say you're probably right. Over in town, I visited the saloon to buy a few more cooking recipes, and back home, I headed to bed for an early night. Day 356 began down at Marnie's ranch, so that I could hand Shane a birthday gift, before knuckling down in the kitchen to cook for the day. I got distracted planting some basil down on Ginger Island, as it was a crop I hadn't planted yet and needed for some cooking. And I popped by Robin's to purchase 5 fridges. Previously, I had been cooking one recipe at a time, which was neither fast nor effective. So I'm overhauling the kitchen with fridges so that I can dump piles of cooking ingredients into them and have them at the ready. It was the best decision I ever made, because now it's so easy to cook multiple dishes at once. I was making my way through town the morning of day 357 when a certain something caught my eye as I was passing the market. If you remember from the last video, I missed out on getting Dusty a propeller hat, but I finally saw another one. After stocking up on cooking ingredients from Pierre's, I got there just as it opened and purchased the hat, and Dusty was like the most handsome steed in all the land. Just look at him. Aww. On top of that, my day got even better when I finally dug up the last snake spine. Yeah! After weeks of checking day after day, it was finally mine. I then dropped it off to Professor Snail. Now every set was complete. He taught me how to craft an ostrich incubator. I got the final golden walnuts as a reward, and now I could tick off another goal towards perfection. The ostrich incubator required cinder shards to craft, and safe to say I was running a bit low, so I spent a bit of time at the volcano dungeon collecting some. Luckily I didn't need many and I crafted one shortly after, which I placed down in the barn and started the incubation process on an ostrich egg I'd found ages ago, all before bedtime. It was straight to Ridgeside on day 358. This was so I could give Sean a birthday present. Shortly after, I popped out to the Castle Village outpost to hand Lance a gift. I really want him at max hearts to access a new location that has a couple of fish that I need to catch. But it's gonna take a while, so in the meantime I did some more cooking to pass the time, picked up the Skull Cavern invasion quest from Key, gathered all the things needed for the hotel power backup quest, and dumped it into a box at the Log Cabin Hotel, completing another special quest. Then it was back to cooking for the rest of the night, and filling up chests with plates of food. It was Andy's birthday on day 359. Dusty and I rode through the rain to drop off a birthday present. After giving Lance his second and final gift for the week, I paid a visit to Marnie's to get some more butter churns and seeds that I hadn't planted yet. The butter churns are for, well, if it's not obvious, butter. But I have a few cooking recipes that need some. And to be honest, looking closer at Pierre's stock revealed that there were a few crops and flowers that I hadn't grown yet, which was quite a lot. Like a lot. The only way I was going to have room and the capability to grow so many crops was my island farm. So I harvested my ancient fruit for the final time and made a start on replacing them with many seeds. The work continued on to day 360 as I ran out of time last night. I was being careful as I went to axe the plants but not the dirt, since I still had speed grow in the soil, which was a nice added bonus. By the afternoon I had finished planting down the last section of crops, and although it was sad to see all of the ancient fruit go, it was looking a lot more colourful. I couldn't let the fruit go to waste though, so I dumped them into my kegs one final time. After that was done, the day had just flown past. But I did find some time to migrate all the fish I had caught to the basement, freeing up space for future fridges. Shane paid the farm of it. Oh, okay, Poxil. Okay, we're skipping that. It's day 361. This morning was spent buying more fridges and adding more cooking ingredients from around the farm to said fridges. Also, I got quite lucky and managed to open a second dwarf gadget at Clint's, meaning that I could make the farm computer. I placed it down in front of the farmhouse, but as you can see, I'm having a very thorough look through the crafting menu. I think I'm missing a recipe or two, and for the rest of the day I ventured around looking at the inventory of many vendors, but unfortunately I couldn't find any spare crafting recipes. Just ignore the mind blank I'm having here on Key's Walnut Room. It's a little embarrassing. But alas, I could not find a single crafting recipe. And after planting another field of crops on the island farm, I decided to forget about it and get some sleep. Day 362 was a hodgepodge kind of day, I guess you could say. It was spent on the farm, picking produce from the orchard, doing a lot more cooking, and trying to figure out the rest of these machines. And I will admit, I did use a wiki to find out how to make some of these things. Things like miso paste and wheat noodles, I'd have no idea how to make. But to keep it organized, I repositioned the machines to share a chest. That way I could keep the products and ingredients for two machines separate from the others, because my brain could not handle it all being in one chest. I was feeling fresh and ready to go on day 363. My first big win of the day was making wheat noodles with the extruder machine, something I needed for a couple of cooking recipes. The second was making blackberry juice with the juicer, and the third was finding out that I could make different types of kombucha with the glass jar, which is gonna send me on a health kick, I'm sure. The fourth big win was finding out I could make soy sauce in the foreign cask from soybeans, another ingredient needed for a few cooking recipes. The fifth was being able to make any kind of soap I wanted with the soap press, and finally I learnt I could use tea leaves on the drying rack to make matcha powder. I had successfully learnt 5 new machines today, and safe to say I was thrilled. So much so that I had the energy and willpower to spend the rest of the day cooking again. It's an absolute grind, but let me say, those fridges are really helping me out big time. Just before bed I had a quick look through the cooking collections tab, and I have to say the hard work is paying off. I was glad to take a break from the kitchen on day 364 because it was the final day of spring. I think I was actually happy to have birthday gifts to hand out this morning. One went to Bert, and the other went to Sunny. While I was around, I passed by the meat house to harvest another round of fun and funky meat plants, which I stored away back on the farm. Then it was right to the island farm to continue harvesting. A few sections and flowers ready for picking, and I was able to replace them with other crops, slowly lowering the list of things I had to grow. Although having just harvested so many flowers, I was having a bit of a full inventory crisis. Eventually I sorted it out, dropped everything back home, and headed out to the desert. Also, I could trade some more jadestone for staircases at the desert trader. I had run low and still had the Skull Cavern invasion to complete, so I bet you can guess where I headed next. If you guessed the Skull Caverns, then you'd be correct. Wait a minute, you guessed for the Crimson Badlands? Man, you're all idiots. The rain pouring down really summed up this year's spring season. Dusty and I enjoyed it though, because we're going to be working under the heat when it's summer. Hold on, sorry, most of my audience is American, so let me do that again. It's summer. That's better. Day 365 marks the first day of summer, and to no one's surprise it was someone's birthday today. Bryle's to be exact. Ridgeside special quests were lacking this week, Pelican Towns didn't have any better, but Key was offering the Skull Cavern invasion quest again, and that I could get behind. The island farm has sprouted more flowers and crops to harvest, all of which I replaced with even more things to grow. Then I spent a while back on the farm scything away my now dead strawberry plants and replacing them with a field full of blueberries. Can't let those Junimos relax all year round, am I right? Being a new week meant that I could bombard Lance with more gifts, so I did just that once I found him at the outpost. And that's it for the first day of summer. Carrying on to day 366, the day began with more gift giving. Obviously one to Lance, the second going to Lola as it was her birthday today. Afterwards I decided a good use of my time could be spent coupled with some staircases and the skull cavern. It didn't take me long to hit the bottom where I received another lot of key gems. As the day went on I tried to find something to occupy my time, and I landed on the idea to decorate the extended orchard section in the evening. I gave it the usual path, fence, torch, grass procedure, and I think it turned out quite lovely. Day 367 I gave some gifts to both Kirhi and Yuma because they were so close to max hearts that it was just honestly kind of annoying me. I then picked a fresh new season of produce from the orchard trees. I also noticed my wine was ready to be collected, so for old time's sake, and money of course, I gathered it all up and shipped it off. Afterwards I decided to burden myself with some more cooking. It had to be done, but boy was that a slog. Back out of the kitchen on day 368 I had a couple more gifts to give out this morning. A fairy rose flower to Jazz for her birthday, and a clam to Kirhi to get him to max hearts. Although I caught Pika talking to a mermaid's pendant, but that's his late wife we're talking about, so tread lightly. Back down in the valley I passed by Pierre's to get a pecan tree sapling and some peanut seeds. Then it was off to the island farm as I had quite a lot of crops ready for me to harvest today, all of which I replaced with more things to grow as per usual. Once I was back home and the crops had been sorted back into chests and the kitchen, I planted my pecan tree down. Luckily it grows in the fall, meaning I'll have the chance to get my hands on some reasonably soon. I then spent some time mucking around with the machines, collecting new products and experimenting with different ingredients. And I introduced my animal friends to a new friend, Lenny the ostrich. Fun fact, if this was vanilla Stardew, then the ostrich egg would be the last item I'd have to ship off. Instead, I've got the rest of these pages of items to ship off too. Isn't that fun? Isn't that just really fun? We love this. This is so much fun. It's funny number day plus 300 today. Nice. I picked out 2 more people for me to reach max hearts with, and I gave both Torts a gift and Louie a gift towards that little goal. The island farm was teeming with fragrant lilies to harvest, so I picked them and replaced them with honeysuckle and fairy rose flowers. Now you may be thinking, Pox, don't you already have fairy rose flowers? You're right, yes, I do. But I just want to make more fairy dust to use on the machines, so I don't have to sit there and wait for new fun things to be ready. I hate to say it, but I spend the rest of the day cooking. Enough said, I think. I sensed a theme intruding on my morning routine, but day 370 started with more gift giving. I gave a birthday present to Martin, and I was on my way to give Louie a gift when I stumbled into an Amathine brunch. I was introduced to Natalie, Althea, and Lorraine amongst the rest of the Amathine family we know all too well. Things got a little heated, an affair was brought up and it got a little uncomfy. I did eventually get to give Louie his gift. I was after a little space from Ridgeside after that affair. Sorry, too soon. So I potted around the farm for the rest of the day, picking more produce from the orchard, cooking a couple of dishes, and riding Dusty around the farm until bedtime. I had to travel to the Highlands as day 371 started. I then decided to pay Grampleton a visit as it was Scarlett's birthday today. I got there using the kiosk at the train station. I handed her some cherries as a present, and then outside she got caught up chasing a dog.
What the dog doing?
Shortly after, my island farm was teeming with more crops and flowers to harvest, and was proving to be worth the culling of ancient fruit. I wish I could say more happened today, but all there is to say, cooking, gathering, and sleeping. Day 372, I paid the saloon an early morning visit to Gus for his birthday. Lance also got a gift, and he was so damn close to max hearts. I was very calm about it. I picked up the Skull Cavern Invasion once again for some easy key gems and cleaned out the island farm once again of more harvestable crops. That afternoon I dug up a shrub seed because silly me didn't grow enough salal berries. And I collected some smooth peanut butter from my butter churns, which I do find out is not the same as normal peanut butter. It started getting late, but that didn't seem to stop me from completing another key quest thanks to some handy dandy staircases. It didn't stop there though. Back at Key's Walnut Room I splashed my key gems on 3 galaxy souls. I don't know if I just forgot about the island trader selling them or I just gave up on it. Either way, I unlocked the island travel system with my golden walnuts and used the rest to get a few more key gems. After which I finally made my way back home and to bed. It was straight up to Ridgeside on day 373. It was Olga's birthday and I had to surprise her with a poppy. I found myself heading to the mountain lake shortly after. I dusted off the old fishing rod and fished until I caught myself a rainbow trout. I just needed one for a cooking dish. The other item I was after was seaweed. Now, a smart person would just head to the ocean and fish for the day. However, I am not one of those. Instead, I opted to go with the dangerous mines route, and would you believe it, it didn't work. I spent far too long here and walked away with a whopping 2 whole seaweed. I do it, so you never have to make the same mistake. Don't tell Blair, but I shared a bed with Maru this morning. It was only for a birthday present, I swear. Wait, don't take that out of context. My morning was taken up with emptying crab pots, picking fruits and all sorts from the orchard, and venturing through the volcano dungeon, looking for dragon teeth and cinder shards. Dragon teeth for a banana sapling I needed for a cooking recipe, stupid, I know, and cinder shards to infuse the galaxy souls to my galaxy sword. Exploring the volcano dungeon ended up spanning the majority of the day, but I found 3 dragon teeth and got my hands on the infinity sword from the forge. I was yearning for more adventure on day 375, and what better way to get that rush than downing a speed potion and speeding your way through the Crimson Badlands. I quickly ran into a swarm of monsters and this scary looking thing. But I gathered myself, turned back around, and it was gone. I swear to God, that long void serpent just disappeared. Must have seen how fast my feet were moving and ran off in fear. That's what I'm telling myself at least. I then found a cave being guarded by an army of monsters. And balls to the wall, I downed an invincibility potion and ran right through a horde of mummies into the cave. I just collected my treasure and used a prismatic shard to open the big purple chest. I was then rewarded with the galaxy slingshot. I couldn't really leave the way I came back in because, you know, army of monsters. So I walked home, loaded up the slingshot with iridium ore, and tried it out on a few enemies back in the Crimson Badlands. It's pretty effective, but I think I have bad aim, so I'll just stick to my infinity sword for now. Mr. Key was at my door the morning of day 376. Apparently he was here to offer me another jukebox track and break the fourth wall. I was understandably a little confused. Anyway, Gus was close to max hearts, so I gave him another gift. Torch was also very close, but disaster struck when I accidentally gave him an orange instead of an ancient fruit. As morning turned to afternoon, I spent a bit of time in the kitchen before popping by the island farm to harvest a load of crops, and then it was back to cooking for the rest of the day. Overnight, Blair asked if I wanted another baby and I agreed, now that we had a visible bed. It's day 377 and I'm happy to report that Hip Hop, Hup and Hap were very close to full hearts now. Gus didn't accept my orange today because apparently I'd given it out too many times. Which is a shame because look how close he is. Alex received a rabbit's foot for his birthday, Kiara also received a rabbit's foot for her birthday, and downstairs in the Heaps convenience store, Irene seemed very excited to be cooking for Zane. I think someone's got a little crush. I found myself heading into the volcano dungeon that afternoon in search of a couple more dragon teeth. Yeah, I'm still after that banana sapling. And I mean, I got one tooth, but it wasn't quite enough, so I messed around with some machines a little before bed and deciding to get some rest. Surprise, surprise, it's another birthday on day 378. I swear to God, all of these birthdays just to get max hearts with so many people. Why can't people just accept one gift and love me for the rest of their lives? In the lobby of the log cabin hotel, I found Anton taking shelter from the rain. However, as Maeve walked past, Anton worked very hard to not be seen by her. I asked why, and I got Anton's story. Another long story short, he was once an architect, and he had an opportunity to build one of the Amathine family mansions. He went in too hard with the project, kept postponing his soon-to-be wedding, and lost it all when the building failed. Although it was a bit of a rough story, he appreciated me listening. What I was actually here for was Floor, as like I said before, it's a birthday. Also, I got to make up for past mistakes and I gave Tort a better gift this time around. Gus also accepted another orange, making him another Poxyl Adorer. The last gift to give out was Lance in the Highlands, and thank Yoba, he was finally at max hearts. He visited me at the island farm as he was giving me the opportunity to accompany him to the first/guild. As it's on an island in the middle of the GMC, he took me through a hidden away portal deep in the forest of Ginger Island. We arrived at the Fable Reef, home of the first/guild hall, and we headed inside. Lance took the opportunity to introduce me and show off the monster crops I had grown for him all that time ago. But just like that, our visit was over. And with no way back, I decided to use the rest of my day making a bunch of fairy dust with some fairy rose flowers I'd harvested and using it on my machines to hurry along the process on some cooking ingredients. Magnus was on my doorstep the morning of day 379. He caught wind of Lance and my trip to the Fable Reef and would allow me to travel there using his Nexus. It was nice to explore the island freely. It allowed me to pick a whole lot of forage around the outskirts of the island and fish out into the open ocean. It's here I caught myself both a torpedo trout and an octopus, which were the final 2 fish left to catch. And satisfied with another complete collections tab, I ticked off another goal towards perfection. I then took some time to explore the guild hall, and got caught out the back nosing around the sleeping quarters, but Jolene kindly offered me the spare bedroom to me if I ever needed it. As for the rest of the day, well, the cave patrol quest was posted on the special quest board, which I accepted, because weirdly, I've never completed it, and it gives you another crafting recipe for the geode crusher. So I got to skeleton slaying in the mines. That was done and dusted pretty quickly. However, I caught Martin getting friend zoned by Claire at the bus stop. And man, you just gotta feel for the guy, eh? My mailbox was providing all the goods on day 380. I got the final star drop from Willie for catching all the fish, which ticks off another perfection goal. I also got the Geode Crusher crafting recipe. Now in my mind, I thought this was the last recipe I needed to craft. And oh boy was I wrong. 98% complete, not even 99%, which means I have 1 if not 2 missing crafting recipes somewhere out in the valley to find. This is genuinely going to drive me bonkers. To take my mind off crafting turmoil, I got to spend some quality time with everyone's favourite tortoise. And look, you just can't be upset when he's being cute like this. I picked up a Ridgeside special quest from Olga called Morning Hobby, which tasks me to deliver 50 tea leaves and 100 coffee beans. It was going to be a close call, but I had tea saplings planted, and after some work, coffee beans planted down on the island farm next to my shrub seed. By the time night came, I picked some produce from my orchard and called it a night. I headed to Jodie's first thing on day 381. This was so I could hand Sam a birthday present. I then picked up some new seeds from Sandy in the desert, but I'll be honest, today was mostly spent trying to figure out the mystery of the missing crafting recipes. I went from vendor to vendor searching through their inventory hoping that I'd just somehow missed buying one. My efforts were proven futile and defeated. I headed to bed early that night. Day 382 was a new day though, and after handing Kenneth a strawberry for his birthday, I got to work planting down some crop seeds I'd purchased from Sandy yesterday, down on the island farm. And I'm gonna be real, that's about all that happened today. I started day 383 back in Ridgeside to continue my search for the mysterious missing crafting recipes. I started my search at Sean and Ian's Odd Jobs. While there was no crafting recipes, they could pet my animals for me, and I wondered, where has this been my whole life? Faye's clothing shop didn't have what I was looking for either. I stumbled across Lola's weapon shed, but alas, she didn't have what I was after either. I did bump into Irene at the Log Cabin Hotel, who told me she's actually wanting to leave her position. But it's Maeve she'd have to deal with, and I can understand how that's a very tricky situation. I was here to check in with Malaya, but she didn't have a spare crafting recipe either. And after that, I quite honestly gave up. I spent the morning of day 384 pottering around the farm doing some chores and adding some diamonds to my crystallariums. The rest of the morning was just me buying some fairy rose flowers so I could go and plant them on the island farm. It seems fairy dust goes just as quickly as it gets made, so growing fairy rose flowers and duplicating diamonds is going to be a must. After dumping a whole inventory full of crops into the shipping bin from an island farm harvest, there wasn't much to say about the rest of the day. All of day 385 was taken up by buying starfruit seeds from Sandy, making room to grow them on the island farm, sowing the dirt full of quality fertilizer, and planting down the seeds. For the simple fact that apples and kiwi both love starfruit, and they're both on like 0 hearts. I'm just making future Poxial's life a little bit easier. Day 386 was the start of the final week of summer, which is important because tea leaves sprout during this time. And to complete the morning hobby quest, I'd have to hope my 6 plants would be enough, plus whatever extra I have in my chests. It was also the dwarf's birthday today, so I gave him a rabbit's foot. Speaking of special quests, I picked up Andy's cellar quest from the board in town, because why the hell not? I had a noticeable lack of hardwood, so after a while of chopping tree stumps and mahogany trees, I gathered up everything I needed, rode Dusty down to Andy's place, and dumped everything he'd need into his chest. I spent the morning of day 387 picking tea leaves, harvesting coffee beans, and giving Victor a duck feather for his birthday. I also got to see Andy's new cellar we'd helped him with. I then decided to oversee the Junimos' work for a while just to make sure they were upholding company working standards. Let's be real, I probably went to get a snack. The volcano dungeon is where I spent day 388, and for the life of me, I actually cannot remember what I was here for. Was it cinder shards? Dragon teeth? To show off the illustrious capabilities of my infinity sword? I guess we'll never know. Day 389, we were back on the case of Mr. Agua's quest to save the ridge from certain doom. On his birthday nonetheless. He took me to a location he's been looking into, and before I knew it, I had fallen right through the ground into an underground cave. Agua was worried that the cave's trees were destabilizing the integrity of the entire ridge, which could cause a sinkhole. But I guess we'll just figure that out all later, or seemingly unbothered, I took a bit of time to clean up the animal area. Having someone else pet your animals is great, until you realize no one's looking after the pen. Remember a while ago I said a smart person would just fish into the ocean for seaweed? Yeah, well, I took my own advice and I spent the whole of day 390 fishing for seaweed, which worked out way better than trying to find it in the mines, that's for sure. I also got to name our new baby boy, and I called him Gert. Oh man, these kids are gonna hate me. It was Malaya's birthday on day 391, and I got to her just before she headed into work this morning. I then got distracted teleporting around Ridgeside using the pink crystals, as per usual. Back on the farm, I picked the final round of summer produce from the orchard and fluffed around the farm with Dusty until bedtime, as per usual. It was the final day of summer on day 392. To my delight, a week's worth of tea leaf picking and coffee bean harvesting had paid off, so I paid a visit to Bert and Olga's to drop off the goods, completing another special quest. Dusty is a companion that never complains no matter what kind of situation you put him in, and I wanted to show him that I really do care, so I let him spend some quality time with one of his own kind, and his cute little propeller hat really just puts the cherry on top. As for the rest of the day, well, I did some textbook manspreading on the bench in town while I waited for tonight's festival. Until Maru came along to join me. Look, what happened that morning was taken out of context. Please don't tell Blair. She'll take Gert and Bingus away from me. The moonlight jellies were back tonight, but someone forgot to empty his crab pots. So please try to ignore that as we indulge in musical euphoria. What goes around comes around, they say. I don't know who they are, but let me have this, alright? Here we are back in fall on day 393. I had to please a birthday boy called Lorenzo this morning before dedicating some time to scything away dead blueberry plants and planting a field full of cranberries. Shortly after, I found Scarlett and Sophia stomping on grapes when they asked if I wanted to go, and I think I almost broke the barrel. Now from here on out to day 398, I decided a good use of my time would be spent on Ginger Island, recording a very special episode of your favourite segment of all time, The Panning with Poxial Extravaganza, with special guest Dusty, and let's roll the montage. Day 399, Dusty and I quite literally did nothing all day, and here we finally are on day 400. As is tradition in all of my 100 days videos, I soak in the spa on the final day to reflect on the past 100 days. And all I can say is holy crap. What an adventure this has been. Not only did we free the spirit realm of Gabriella's corruption, we got to tick off loads of goals towards our journey to perfection, ventured to faraway lands, and made so many new friends along the way. Our mega modded journey is so close to its end, but fortunately for that, my friends, you'll just have to wait to see how it ends in the thrilling conclusion of 500 days. But for now, I'm gonna keep relaxing in the spa for a while. I think I need it. So there you have it. That is 400 days of Mega Modded done and dusted. Here's how the farm is looking so far, and it won't be long until we have a final look at the fully finished farm. If you have enjoyed the video, then I'd appreciate you liking the video and subscribing to the channel, so you don't miss out on more fun videos like this one. If you do have any suggestions for the Summit farm, or know where those last 2 crafting recipes could be, then please leave a comment for me. And join our Discord if you get bored between uploads. We have lots of fun over there. But as always, you're all wonderful people, so have a wonderful day, and thanks for watching.